What's up, everybody? I'm Justin.
I'm Jerry.
And y'all have been added back into the anime group chat. Today, we're talking about Chainsaw Man Chapter 111, Ahahaha, which picks up right where we left off with Asa and Yuko having a conversation as Yuko shows up to Asa's door. She tells her that the Justice Devil is actually at their school and warns her not to make a contract with her like she did before she takes off to hopefully find her humanity. But on the way, we see her get bodied by someone that looks like Denji. I don't know what's going on there. Jerry, what'd you think of the chapter?
The train just keeps rolling. The last few chapters have been absolutely insane, and it's hilarious because I feel like everyone thought that part 2 was just starting off really slow, and now it's just kind of nonstop. The major questions for me in the chapter are, who is the Justice Devil at school? And who is the Chainsaw Man cosplayer? Like, it's a game of Clue at this point. In terms of the Justice Devil at school, I know in the community, especially on Reddit, there's a lot of debate around the devil that we saw mention Asa and Yoru as a younger sister. Is this person the Justice Devil, or is she, another one of the four horsemen, famine or death, perhaps? My vote is probably that she is one of the four horsemen. If you just look at the form that this devil takes, the eyes look really similar to Makima, look really similar to Asa and Yoru. In fact, she's like humanoid, and we don't see many purely humanoid devils. My bet is somewhere along the lines of like one of the four horsemen devils, but that still leaves like who is the Justice Devil at school, and I frankly have no idea.
I'm honestly clueless about it too, and I wanted to believe that this was the indicator that the devil, or the classmate that we saw that stepped out to help Yuko was in fact the Justice Devil, at least based on the motifs that we saw with this character. The scale earrings that we were wondering if they were a pull cord or if they were food scales. I thought that this might be kind of the big flag to say that was actually the Justice Devil, and that would explain the impact that she had on Yuko. But to your point, there's anywhere that it could go. Honestly, it's not a full indicator just yet, and so I'm excited to see what happens when Asa returns to school, knowing that the Justice Devil is among her classmates, and kind of sussing it out from there.
Yes, I mean, it's definitely not a surprise that the Justice Devil is at her school, right? Because we've already seen, one other person who made a contract with the Justice Devil sort of show up at the school. Now it's Yuko. I think that one of the interesting aspects of this is that it really puts more emphasis on this still being Denji's story. He's kind of the unifying factor, bringing all of these different parties together, right? Like Yoshida transferred to this school apparently to sort of watch over Denji, but if you think about the Justice Devil also kind of lying in the cut, he's probably also there in more of a protective capacity as well. It puts that emphasis on Denji, even though we don't see him most of the time.
Interested to see what is actually going on there. Beyond that fact, I wondered, where is Yuko going to actually get healed and turned back into a human again? I thought that note of the conversation was interesting just because we've never heard about anyone recovering from devilhood, whether it be being turned into a fiend, turned into a hybrid. It seemed to have been something that just sticks with you up until this point. What did you think about that?
It would be really fun if Yuko could have her sort of like Jorah the Andal moment from Game of Thrones, where she goes off into the sunset. She tries to go on this epic quest to figure out how to heal herself. Knew that wasn't going to happen. Like, Fujimoto doesn't have time for that. I didn't know that she was going to get offed like immediately in that chapter, but I think it's way too convenient to just bring up this devil hunter that exists, that's like a family friend or something that can turn people back into humans after becoming devils. I mean, we discussed before, she doesn't seem like a hybrid, she doesn't seem like a fiend. This entire situation is actually pretty unheard of in the first place, right? To have someone like sort of turn into a devil. So I thought that was a really weird kind of throwaway. That said, I mean, I am like 100% certain that that person that she mentioned is going to show up in the story. There's no reason for Fujimoto to just like drop this person's name in here and then just like never double click on that ever again. So we'll see them come up in some respect.
I was so sold on the idea that Yuko was a hybrid. If y'all watched the last episode, I could have swore up and down that we were seeing another Denji, experience. She mentioned getting a heart. Come on, it just all added up. But Denji has never really expressed wanting to eat anyone because of his devil powers. I don't even think we've seen fiends express those, urges up until this point. I think you made a really interesting point there that I wanted to circle back on too. This might not be the end of Yuko. If she really is a devil at this point, all she needs is a little bit of blood to heal her again, right? And so I'm praying that maybe, she does have a shot at redemption because I thought she was a nice character from the jump. But knowing that this is a Fujimoto story, she may have just served the purpose of getting bodied the way that she did. And this might be the last chapter that we see her.
Okay, so I'm just going to say, I'm totally okay with Yuko getting just got out of this story right now. Like, I'm totally okay with this being the last time we see her. I think she served her purpose in that, like, she has given Yoru and Asa a lot of development. She could come up as like a really interesting way to create like a weapon at some point. I'm totally okay with her just being gone and out of the story. Talking about the Chainsaw Man Devil, perhaps. What did you think?
Honestly, that end of the chapter had me a little shook. I was just blown away that Yuko died so quickly, and then seeing that, this person who killed her has blood in the arm, has the chainsaw head. It just seemed to give everything that we know Denji to be. However, could potentially be a cosplayer like you mentioned, and something that led me to think that was the silhouette of his face, specifically the chin. I feel as though it doesn't match the mask that Denji has, and so part of me wondered, are we seeing Denji? Or, going back to our last conversations maybe 2 weeks ago, if the Chainsaw Devil is actually not what Denji is, could this potentially be a Chainsaw Devil that has grown in strength because of the existence of Denji and everything that he's caused up until this point in the story? Kind of a wild theory, I know. What did you think about it?
Talking about the Chainsaw Man Devil, I've seen that theory a couple places. It's interesting. My only gripes with it are that I'm not sure how a Chainsaw Devil actually fits into the story at this point. For one, I'm not sure what its motivation would be to kill Yuko. I don't know why it would do that unless it's perhaps being controlled by the Four Horsemen. That's a distinct possibility. My other point would just be that like the Chainsaw Man, like Denji, actually isn't feared that much right now, right? People know him. People are like creeped out by him. People in some cases like him. Some people think that he is a villain, but he's not truly feared that much. And that was actually, established pretty well in part 1 when Denji, after like turning into Chainsaw Man, lost to Makima because like the entire public saw him as the hero, who killed the Gun Devil. So I'm not sure if this were even to be like the Chainsaw Devil based off of like Denji's success or like notoriety, if it'd even be like that strong of a devil, but like that's kind of where I'm at.
To that point, I was thinking that the fear that's driving the strength in chainsaws out of nowhere would be rooted in the way that devils perceive the Chainsaw Man after his defeat of the Control Devil and, so on and so forth. And this kind of like symbolism of him now as, this devil killer. But to your point, right, he's now loved by the people. And so maybe there's some power balance in here that wouldn't make an actual Chainsaw Devil that effective and that much of a killer. But as far as the purpose that it could serve, I think that what I can see with the introduction of a different Chainsaw Man in this part of the story is kind of a tie-in with Denji being obsessed with revealing who he is and exposing himself as the Chainsaw Man. Only before he can actually get the word out, for a different Chainsaw Man to appear and then maybe not even begin posing as him, but begin to act accordingly or act with his own agenda. We literally just missed Denji failing to reveal himself. I just feel like it could make for a very interesting, will the real Chainsaw Man please stand up kind
bro,
of moment,
I'm buying all of the stock in that theory. That's going to the moon, bro. Like that's forget Dogecoin. That is going to the moon. I think that is going to happen for sure because he's been waiting to reveal himself for so long at this point. Like he's so bought into this idea. And I can just see at like the prime moment where he does reveal himself, this other Chainsaw Man just busting through a wall or something, and he's completely overshadowed. So I like the idea. I have my own crackpot theories for like what's happening here. Two ideas here. First, it could be that Denji is not the only Chainsaw Man. In part 1, we saw a lot of instances that showed off how flexible Pochita is, right? So, at some point, Chainsaw Man rips Pochita out of his chest, throws him back to Earth, and then regenerates entirely from him. We also saw in like the last fight with Makima, Denji creates an entire clone of himself just using a portion of Pochita's heart. My, out there theory is like, what if in this initial fight between the Four Horsemen and Chainsaw Man that really kicked off this entire series, Pochita was defeated, as we know, but he wasn't just defeated, he was also kind of split into two, whether that was like intentional by his enemies or intentional by himself. Perhaps another party like the Four Horsemen take control over one piece of him, And then Denji sort of finds Pochita, and that's kind of the other piece that we've seen this entire time. It's almost like a callback to Naruto, where there's like two sides of the nine-tailed fox, right? And so that would be kind of interesting, because I think it lends itself to more of like a reason behind this convergence around Denji right now. Especially at the school, like there's just so many things happening around him, and it could be that like someone is actually trying to make Chainsaw Man whole again. So that's like my first theory, and it's probably wrong. The second theory I have is that this is just a manifestation of Yuko's contract. We know Yuko didn't have a standard contract in the first place, right? And we talked about this on previous episodes. During those conversations, we talked about the similarities between her contract with the Justice Devil and Denji's contract with Pochita. And in the same way those seemed similar at the time, if we take it another step, Denji initially broke his contract with Pochita when he became disillusioned by his own dreams and wanted to stop dreaming. We could see a similar dynamic here, where Yuko breaks her contract with the Justice Devil by becoming disillusioned with the idea of justice, and no longer being willing to sort of push her own view of justice onto others. Kind of makes sense a little bit, because it also felt like her abilities were kind of tied to her belief in the justness of her own actions. So I think it tracks a little bit. Who is this person at the end then? I think that the price of breaking that contract is that you have to be punished or like brought to justice by someone or something that represents your ideal of justice. And for Yuko, just based on some of her previous dialogue, that would be Chainsaw Man. So those are my two like crazy crackpot theories. Feel free to tear them apart, bro.
I'm not going to, bro. I love both of them, and I especially love the second one because that would make perfect sense. Yuko was empowered by the Justice Devil to enact justice, and becoming too disillusioned with her own ideal of justice to then be brought to that justice, I think it's poetic justice. Oh man, yo, I'm fired. That's the last.
I support you. That was fire. That was fire. Give me another one.
God,
it was fire.
I love that idea, though. Honestly, I think that I wouldn't put Fujimoto above doing something like that, and I think it tracks perfectly. So honestly, I'm excited for the next chapter to see which one of us is wrong again. It will probably be both of us.
Yeah, spoilers, but it'll be both.
We both came to the table with some real, merit deserving theories in here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, bro. We were getting our bachelors of science in Chainsaw Man.
All right, y'all. That wraps up our discussion of Chainsaw Man chapter 111. Crazy chapter. We're both interested to see what happens from here. If you haven't read the chapter, go on and get in there. If you have read the chapter, get in the comments. Let us know what you thought. We'd love to hear from you. Otherwise, feel free to like us on social, subscribe. We want to stay in touch with y'all, and we've got more content coming. Until then, I'm Justin.
I'm Jerry.
This has been the Anime Group Chat. See ya.